June the 18th, 2021. As you're looking at a wide satellite view using some infrared imaging over the entire U.S. and out into the northern Atlantic, we talked about the system that we're looking at in the Gulf, supposed to become Tropical Storm Claudette today. We talked about it being a broad area of low pressure. And you can see how this thing is tailing off, and this moisture that's been coming over Florida from this very tip of the storm is now well into the North Atlantic. Check that out. But here we've got 45-mile-per-hour sustained winds. At any moment, they could declare it a Tropical Storm Claudette. And I'm going to look at it closer, but I wanted you to give this a wider look right now. For one reason, if you notice as this starts back over here, this is what I was afraid of, and it happened last year twice over Louisiana, was that the storm started building this long tail, and you'll watch it develop over this series of images. See right here, it's kind of concentrated here, but of all of this pulling in from the Bay of Campeche now is going to end up raining somewhere, and it looks like possibly Florida, maybe up into Georgia. We'll see how this thing pans out. And the storm is basically dry on the entire west side. We're going to look at this closer. Notice this. Also, this storm started because a system came over the Mexican peninsula here out of the Pacific Ocean. We see a lot of that same energy push because of the way the upper level wind patterns are. So it's going to continue to feed possibility of storms and more moisture in. And this tropical depression, or Tropical Storm Claudette, could very well tie into that moisture and let this thing trail over the same area or close to the same area for 2 or 3 days. We know it can happen, but I do want to look at it closer. Now, zooming in over the Gulf of Mexico itself, guys, you can see right again to the west side of the storm where the rotation is right in this area there. So, again, the entire western half from north to south is dry. That's a good thing. It's going to keep it from developing into a major storm. But if you look at the overall effect of the Bay of Campeche and the Northern Caribbean as they feed into the storm, and that long trail out into the North Atlantic, is a very wide area. If this thing would have come into the Caribbean and started forming this large and then pull up through the peninsula or across Cuba, somewhere around the Yucatan, we would have a major hurricane on our hands. But because it is forming late in the game, that's going to keep it down to tropical storm. That being said, this amount of moisture could really create some problems. They're talking about be aware of localized flash flooding that happens very quickly because of the amount of moisture. Now, I'm sitting right here in central Mississippi, just to the very north of these light clouds here. It's overcast, but it's not raining yet. That tells you that just south of us, as it's starting to get into the yellow and oranges, that's when you're going to start seeing more moisture. But you look at how red this trailing edge of the storm is. You can see that's where the moisture is, and that's where the power of the storm is. This one thing about this rotation, notice it has made a west or left turn here. That's going to keep it offshore just a little bit longer than going directly ashore in Louisiana, but it has a fast forward speed. Let's take a look at that. But quickly, let me just give you the real imaging of what we're seeing. And you saw where the storm bands were, and you can see it in the higher cloud tops. Here's your tailing stream forming. And there's a lot of energy being pushed into the Bay of Campeche. Again, if you look closely, you can see small areas of rotation right there, and all that moisture that's coming over the Mexican peninsula now. We'll have to watch it. But this is your just cloud top look, no infrared imaging at all. Check that out. You can see again where this center is kind of moving to the west. It's a north-northwest pattern. I noticed on the Louisiana webcams that are in New Orleans down in Bourbon Street that it is starting to get light rain in that area. Once it gets fully ashore, that'll be the time to watch to see if the pumps there can keep up with this much moisture. Now, if you haven't prepped, you need to be wrapping that up because of the forward speed, which is it's moving north at 14 miles an hour. Again, it looked like it kind of had made a left turn there. This was at 1 p.m. Central Time, and that was an hour and 18 minutes ago. So we may have an update a little closer to 4 o'clock. So maximum sustained winds 45 miles an hour. That's what I'm saying. At any time, it could become tropical storm Claudette. The storm warnings have moved a little bit more to the east, not quite covering as much as of Louisiana, but it still does extend down to Panama City. That's, again, the blue area is tropical storm warnings. Notice forming the tropical storm. Say it's staying a tropical storm even over Lake Pontchartrain. That's telling you that New Orleans is to the south and east of this area. That is where the strength of the northeast quadrant of the storm will push ashore, then becoming a depression by in the morning by 7 p.m. 7 a.m. Sunday, it's setting over Alabama, and by sunset Sunday, Father's Day, it's a tropical depression over North Georgia into South Carolina, parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. Now, you can tell by this map what I was saying about the northeast section of the storm is going to have the most wind and the most moisture. This red area that you see here, from out into the Gulf up toward into Mobile Bay, all the way over to the Florida-Alabama line, this section that's going to be to the right of the storm, you're talking 10 to 15 inches. I mentioned that last night, that the European models were talking about up to 10 inches in New Orleans. The orange area is 6 to 10 inches. You can see that's a much wider area. Yellow is 4 to 6. And you've got isolated locations here that's southeast of Birmingham. It's in that 6 to 10 inch range. So pay attention to that. It looks like Florida's going to get a break from a lot of the moisture, but you've been getting it all week. But anywhere in the U.S. right now, guys, don't complain about much rain, because look at the west, what's happening out in the southwest and all the way up the west coast. But this is going to be, again, they're talking about very quick delivery of the rain. Potential tropical cyclone 3, day 1 through 3 rainfall forecast in inches. So this is going to go through Father's Day weekend into Monday. Now, Fox has just updated their forecast somewhat, and what we're looking at here is, again, winds 45 miles an hour, northeast movement at 14 miles an hour, your pressure at 1,007 millibars. In 2 p.m. update, it's showing, again, Friday, 8 p.m. coming ashore as a 40-mile-per-hour storm. It's already at 45 miles an hour, so we'll probably get into the 50 mile an hour, maybe 55 mile an hour with higher gust storm as this thing comes ashore. Remember, flooding, high winds knocking out power, water spouts close to the shore, tornadoes inland, lightning, of course. So, guys, I'm going to update this again as we get a late report before it comes ashore and see what we've got. But right now, you watch it. It's a heads up. Be safe.